Today I'm going to have a chat with long-time client Holly Harris. Holly is an elite skater and has travelled the world with her sport. In her journey there's been some challenges along the way, and Holly's learned how to overcome those and actually turn some of them into a unique skill set. So I hope you get a lot from today's interview with Holly Harris and maybe pick up some techniques for you and your career. Here is me and Holly Harris having a chat about mental performance. All right, we're good to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for saying yes to have a chat with me.
Of course.
It's been a bit of a journey, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has.
And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but next month is the anniversary of when we first started working together, 10 years.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah, so I was looking
that.
back through my notes before we had a chat today, and I was it's next month, and it was out at Macquarie. I came and did an observation of watched you train.
Mm-hmm.
How old would you have been?
I think I would have been...
So 10 years ago?
Yeah, it would have been 10.
10?
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
I know.
What do you remember of those earlier years?
Well, I do remember. I think I remember the first session we had. I think my mom set it up, and I was kind of like, "Who's this guy going to watch me skate? Like, why do I need to work with a sports psychologist?" And now, obviously, I'm very grateful that that happened. But yeah, I do remember some resistance, and yeah, I wasn't really aware of what a sports psychologist was and how it could benefit me. But I eventually came around to it. I do remember I had obviously OCD, still do, and I do remember being very fixated on little things during training, and you helped me out with that a lot.
So that when I was going back through the notes and I started realising it's been 10 years, I did read my first set of notes, and it was about the obsessive behaviour.
Yeah.
And you say you still got those,
yeah.
but they're a lot different now to what they were then. I remember they were very debilitating for you at the time.
Yeah, they were more harmful and not
Yeah.
helping me.
Can you remember what some of them were?
Yeah, I remember I had to wear certain flowers in my hair to go skate. I had to have my certain pads when I jumped, so when I fall, they would protect me, and I think certain routines, on my warm-up, on my skates. Those are the ones that stick out to me.
Yeah.
And I remember being stressed if we forgot the hair clips for my hair, which obviously has nothing to do with my skating.
No.
I can skate with or without them, so yeah.
I actually remember reading back through that note, and you made that statement, I have to have my hair clips. And I think one of the earlier sessions was cancelled because you didn't have your hair clips.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Where do you think you would have been today if you hadn't have got a handle on those?
Those small things probably could have progressed, more detrimental to the training. And maybe, I wouldn't have had clear processes or understanding of what works best for me, and it probably would have caused more anxiety in the future.
What do you remember of those early day sessions? Because we conducted a lot of them in here.
Yeah, I do remember that. I remember you coming here, and we would work here or out there. I don't remember exactly what we put in processes. I remember that, funnels, goal setting, a lot of specific work. And I soon started to realize that I'm in control and not the hair clips.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those.
I remember we used to sit here and there was, we used a lot of coloured pens, remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, glitter pens.
I love, yeah, a lot of pink pens.
Yeah, a lot of pink pens, yeah. So why do you think we used the colours?
To interest me?
Yeah, absolutely, to stimulate, that's exactly right. So working with you now as an adult, it's a very different process. Our conversations are very different, our sessions are very, very different. When you're working with a younger athlete, it's more about stimulating them and keeping them interested. Yeah. And for you, definitely was the colour pens and the glitter pens.
Stationery.
Stationery.
Yeah.
Yep. So tell us a little bit about your journey, what you've done, where you are, how you got there.
Okay, so obviously when I began working with you, I was doing single skating in Australia. I think I'd probably taken a few trips overseas for training. And that became more permanent, and I started to take longer trips to the US. And then I moved there with my mom and my sister, and I trained there for 7 years, like on and off. And then eventually I went to Junior Grand Prix, I went to Junior Worlds, and then I decided I wanted a change. I switched to ice dance. And this was kind of an accumulation of different things that caused this, like I had a concussion and jumping became kind of stressful for me, and I'd always been told I'd be a good ice dancer because it was the things I loved about skating, artistry, choreography, performance, and so I decided I would try it, and I ended up loving it. And so I did that for a year in Detroit, and then I moved to Montreal, and I've been there for 4 years, training with my partner who's from Canada.
Hello, I'm tired. Hello, I'm tired. Hello, I'm fighting. I'm sure this world is done with me. Hey Lord, I'm tired.
Done a lot of international events, 3 world championships, one Grand Prix season last year, and we podiumed at an international event last year. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I feel like I've settled into this new category of skating, and I've been training at the Ice Academy of Montreal, and I love it, and it's an amazing team environment, and it's really inspiring. It's the best training base in the world, so yeah, I feel very lucky.
It's an impressive journey, isn't it? What's it like to live away from home at a young age?
It was challenging, yes. At first, it was very hard. I mean, I was very adamant on what I wanted from a young age. I always knew that I wanted to do skating. I always knew that I needed to go overseas to get the training that I needed. I told my parents, I said, this is what I want to do. I need to be over here. Like, if you're going to support me, I really need to be training here. And they listened and they said, okay, well, this is what you want, let's try and do it. And so, yes, it was very hard, and I missed out on a lot of family things, a lot of school things, but I knew deep down, like, what I was doing was what I wanted, and I knew that what I was losing in that aspect of school and family, like, I was gaining so much in traveling and the sport that I was doing, and so there was never a doubt in my mind that that's what I wanted. So obviously I had my moments where I was sad and I was missing my family, and I'm so lucky to have FaceTime because I can talk to them every day. But you do get used to it, and now I leave for Montreal on Saturday. I'm just so excited to go back. But it's not always like that. Like, obviously there's times where I'm like really just want to be home. And that was me last year because I hadn't seen my family like the whole season, and I'd only got to see them in March when I came home. So I was just itching to come home. I couldn't wait. But this last season I was really lucky to see them for Christmas. They came to Montreal. So I feel like there's a good balance this year. So just figuring out what works, and having a good support system in Montreal is really important.
You spoke a lot there about the family aspect, and then, and knowing your family, they're incredibly supportive for you. Being an elite athlete, being away from home gives you a unique skill set, doesn't it? It enables you to set objectives, follow programs, and all the stuff that we talk about. What have you found that's done for you in life, outside of skating?
Yeah, I think a lot. There's a lot I'm going to take away from the sport when I retire. I've learned...
It's a bit early to be talking about retirement.
No, like maybe 10 years, I don't know. Not anytime soon. But yeah, like obviously goal setting, that's incredibly important. I put that into my normal life as well, and I'm going to use that for the rest of my life. Specific goal setting, planning. Obviously, like I'm a big planner, that's what I like to do. So being really organized, and with training, I know that if I want to be at my best, I need to be organized and efficient with planning, and so definitely take that into my normal life one day. What else?
We talk a lot about communication, and I think one of the greatest journeys I've seen in you is your ability to communicate, to articulate, to be able to work with people. And that's sometimes really difficult when you go from an individual to working in a team.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's been a journey for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, in the last 3 years I've learned a lot about communication. Obviously I work in a team, so without that the team dynamic would not be functioning. So both my partner and I have learned a lot about communicating and being really intentional with that. And if you're not communicating, it leads to assumption, so that's not good. So yeah, communication in life and in sport is really important, and I'll definitely take that with me.
So obviously you get to travel the world, which is most people's dream, particularly athletes who are looking up to you and going, I want the life that you've got. That does come with some challenges, obviously, because you've got to, we talk about drop, set, go strategy. Doesn't matter where you are, you need to know what you need and be able to implement that. When you see other athletes who travel, what do you see in them now that was maybe you, it was many years ago, or what do you see that you think, oh, if only you had done a similar journey to yours?
Every person is really different. So when I'm traveling with my the Ice Academy of Montreal, it's a lot of different teams, and so you're going to get a lot of different people, and there'll be the team that kind of keeps to themselves, does their own thing. Maybe they're really experienced, they've kind of done a lot, like they don't feel the need to like hang around everyone, wasting energy on that. So they're really just like, they do their thing in their process. And then there's other people who are just like super chill, like they don't have much process because they're just really relaxed people. They don't need it, so they're just socializing and talking until right before they get on the ice. So there's like more like organized, and you can just tell that they're like more like diligent with what they're doing, and like, I mean, there's no right or wrong way, like everybody's different, and so it's interesting for me to see, and it's interesting to learn, because there is no, like I said, there's no right or wrong way, and it's good for me to see that like, oh, everybody's different, like everybody has a different journey, like, but it is good to travel with those teams and see, because the people that are like me, it's nice to see like their success and like some different processes that they put in place, and yeah, it's really inspiring. But yeah, I guess I don't know if I would have changed anything in the way that I've like progressed to where I am today, because I learned a lot, and I think now I'm at an age where I can understand certain things better and implement more specific techniques now than I would have been able to back when I was younger, and handle different situations better. So yeah, I think I'm happy with the journey that I've taken. Yeah,
that's really good, and that's good to hear, particularly when obviously I've been there through some of the more challenging times, particularly when you was away, and you talked earlier about the concussion. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was a challenge for sure. I've had 3 concussions now, but at the time I just had 1, and it's a very long recovery. Like, it's darkness, no social media, and no electronics, not even really reading, like nothing that stimulates the brain too much. So it can be like kind of like a depressing time. You can't train, you can't do anything. But yeah, it kind of like caused a lot of like anxiety and stress associated to skating because that's how it happened. And yeah, I eventually just came back to Australia and kind of like thought like what do I want to do, and yeah, I decided I wanted to try ice dance. So I moved to Detroit. Well, actually no, I didn't make the decision lightly. I didn't want to switch that easily. I wanted to try and like keep skating, obviously, so I moved to Detroit. And in Detroit, it's where a lot of dancers train, and the coach that I was working with at the time on skating skills was a dance coach, and she really wanted me to do dance, and she really pushed me to try, and she's like, I have a partner for you, like, you'd be a great dancer. And so I was like, no, I'm not a dancer, I'm a single skater, like, you know, I want to keep doing this. But eventually I was just like, I'll try. And yeah, I ended up really liking it. I liked the challenge of switching and working on new things, and I was really just determined to be the best at what I could do with that. And so, yeah.
So there's a lot of talk these days about concussion. Obviously, historically, as athletes, we haven't managed concussion particularly well.
No, yeah, it's
but
very delicate.
Absolutely, and I think the fact that you talk about it and talk about the dark times and the challenges, and particularly someone of your age, a younger age these days, staying off social media, not being able to go out and be stimulated and do stuff, that's a tough call, and that can be quite a scary place for anybody. What did you learn about you going through that?
I think I learned that it's important who you surround yourself with, and I guess I learned like about my personal strength, because it wasn't an easy time, and I've kind of now been through that 2 or 3 times, so I know that it comes to an end, and if I want something, I can persevere and push through that time. And also learned about like injury management. Like if I'm injured, there's so many things that I can do to make myself better during that time. Like just because I'm off the ice, it doesn't mean I'm like off the ice and I can't physically train, but like I use visualization, and there's always like something you can do to help get better. And there's always going to be a lot of exercises and physio and eventually. So yeah, I learned that I can do everything in my power to get better, and even though it's like hard and a dark time and it sucks to not be able to be on the ice and it's like a long journey, there's always something you can do, and yeah. So
athletes get injured. It's just part and parcel of what we do. We don't play tiddlywinks for a living. Not me anymore, but we compete and we train hard, particularly somebody of your stature in the sport. Athlete who is going through not necessarily a concussion, but any other kind of injury, what would you say to them?
The journey is a long journey. It's not a short journey, so this is just a small part of your career. And I would say this isn't like stopping you. This is just, a little bump in the road. Like your journey is it's a winding road, it's not straight. And I would say like there's a lot of things you can still be doing right now to train. Like you can visualize, you can plan ahead, you can walk through your program, say your foot's injured. With your upper body, you can, I think, I would tell them that they can still keep training and to not lose hope. I guess I have a friend who was just like really badly injured last year, and they told her like you probably won't skate for like 6 months or a certain time, and right from the start she was always like asking when can I skate again, obviously. And she set herself a goal to go to the World Championships, which is 6 months away from the time she was injured, and it was like a very serious injury. And she I was so impressed because right from the beginning she was just determined from the start, and she really did everything in her power to get better. Like her tenacity and resilience and determination inspired me so much, because she made it to the World Championships, which is just mind-blowing, because it's possible that she wasn't going to be able to talk or walk, and so
wow, that's that is inspiring.
That inspired me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would just say like it's all mental.
Very rarely is recovery just a physical thing.
Yeah.
It's predominantly a psychological thing, and managing yourself, isn't it? And picking those moments and picking what you can do, and being very conscious and cognizant of, I may not be able to walk at the moment, but I can do other things.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot in our time about journaling.
Yeah.
What part has that played in your journey?
Definitely a big part of my journey. This past season I was very active in trying to journal more. You're always telling me to journal. It's not something that I would like reach for naturally and just do. Now it has become like that. But yeah, I find it very crucial in my finals leading up to competitions, and in the way that I kind of talk to myself. I think it's really helped me turn my self-talk positively. I can be very like hard on myself, and like, you know, I want myself to always be better. Try journal morning and afternoon, and in the afternoon I'm very specific in what I've done that day and how I did it well and what I did well and the goals that we set and the reward, so that, you know, that stimulates a part of the brain that wants to do it again the next day. And if I'm like always hard on myself, then obviously it's not going to be enjoyable. So yeah, that's played a really big role in this past season, and I think the positivity towards myself has really improved because of that. Yeah.
That's really good. You talked about how your friend got injured and that inspired you. Who do you look up to? When you think about whether it's sporting people or not, who do you look at and go, I like that person, and I like what they stand for? Actually,
there's an athlete that comes to mind that I feel like I really resonated with when I heard their stories. Elisa Camplin, the aerial skier. I listened to a podcast with her, and it really inspired me a lot. About a year and a half ago, I think. Obviously, her journey is not, I mean, it's not dissimilar to mine, but I mean, she started aerial skiing, I think, I don't know the exact age, but maybe 18, like higher up. Like you would normally start your sport at a younger age. So it was really inspiring how determined she was to make it to the Olympics, and how she worked and worked and worked. And she was the kind of person to use everything or do everything in her power to make her the best athlete she could be. So she hired a sports psychologist and really just worked on herself. And I think her approach to competition I really resonated with. So yeah, I would say she's like probably my biggest athletic inspiration.
Nice. So you said at the start that when we first started working together 10 years ago, that there was a little bit of resistance.
Yeah.
What was a tipping point for you? What changed?
I think I started to realize like how much I wanted this for myself. And obviously I'm so lucky to have had like coaches and parents who have pushed me forward from the start. Like I always knew I wanted it, but you know, they would give me different tools to use, but I started to realize that like those tools were there for me, and like I wanted to like take them. I wanted to take control. And I think also being away from home, it makes you mature a little bit younger. And so yeah, I started living alone as well at a young age, and I just realized that I wanted to do this for myself really, and not doing it for anybody else. Like this is what I wanted, and so I started like taking more control over every aspect of my career.
So there was definitely times in the early stages where there was some resistance, and I think a lot of that from the times that we worked together was it was difficult for you to apply. And when there wasn't an instant return, then that's where some of the challenges came from.
I wasn't seeing the point, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So for you as an individual athlete at that time, what would you have done different?
I probably would have had a more open mind and been less stubborn in my own ways, and realized like there was help for a reason. And I think I didn't understand at this time, but like if you've got like different tools to help you with your sport, like why not try everything that you can? I'm sure it's in a journal somewhere. Yeah, it must be. Yeah. Did I journal when I was?
Yeah, that's what the pens were for. That's what the colours for. It was a little bit different. It was more image driven back in those days.
Yeah, I still have like all the notes that I had written down.
That's really cool.
Of like different exercises we did. Yeah.
When I work with people for a long period of time, and I'll say to them sometimes, I went back over our early notes, and they'll go, oh, you still got the notes from back then?
Yeah.
What were they like? It's interesting to see. So if we fast forward 10 years to where we are today, what do you get from the processes we build, the strategies, the interaction? What's different today?
I'd say it's very, well, I'm coming to you with different concerns that I have or areas that I want to improve in. And obviously you're doing the same with areas that you feel like I can improve in. It's very specific work, I find. It's very detail orientated, and focus a lot on kind of managing emotions and focusing on blueprints, processes, and that those are my control areas. Like, I know that if I control my process and my system, then like I've done my job, and that's like all I need to worry about, really. So yeah, a lot of work with my ice dance partner on what we were talking earlier about communication and working together and processes between the two of us. And yeah. In
today's world of high performance, we now know that having somebody in your corner who does help you work on the psychological aspect, not just a physiological or technical, is paramount.
Yeah.
And having that kind of accessibility to help you structure and strategy and that kind of stuff. What does your typical week look like when we're talking about the mental aspect? I
visualize both of my routines twice a day at least. One each, but twice. And I use a technique of ball bouncing in my warm-up to focus in and I also visualize whilst I do that. And I visualize different elements and on the ice, like off the ice. And I have very specific schedule and process before getting on the ice. I have like a whole warm-up that I do to focus in and get in the zone. And I work with my partner after skating. We debrief, we write notes out. And before the session, we set goals and intentions for the day, and we're very specific in how we plan our week out with different lessons and what we want to work on with each coach. And then at the end of the day, we debrief, we check what we've hit, and if there's certain things we haven't hit, we set it for the next day, and then we write notes for different lessons we've had that day. And those are kind of like key things that always stay in my process and my system. I know that they work for me, and they work collaboratively with my partner.
Because that's been part of our journey, right? Making sure this is bespoke for you.
Yeah.
And having a cookie cutter approach is normally where people struggle, because they feel like that they need to morph into a process rather than have the process be part of their journey.
Yeah.
So I certainly think over the 10 years, I'm going to keep referencing the fact it's been 10 years, it's crackers.
Yeah.
But over the 10 years, a lot of our processes have had to change because you've changed.
Yeah.
And as you've grown and there's been a different necessity and different requirement for the skill or the process, we've needed to recalibrate and rebuild those.
Yeah.
I think it's an important thing for most people to recognise. It's never a set and forget. So when we work together and you take a bit of a time off, because the end of the season now for you, you've taken a bit of a break, you've come back here to Australia. How do you maintain the momentum and the day-to-day things when you're not training all the time?
I still try to keep up visualization and journaling. Those are two really important things that I think you can still do when you're off season, when you're not training. It probably, well, no, I don't think it'll be a challenge to get back into things next week. I think because I'm like so excited and eager to begin, and it's ingrained in my brain. Like, I just finished a long season of this work, so I think it'll be all right there. But I haven't really like stopped, like, obviously, but like I haven't kept up with everything, to be honest. Like,
see, now it's coming out on camera now.
Yeah. Like I mean, it's been like training from competitions from last August until end of March. So a really long season with like maybe like small break in between. So yeah, I feel like I did kind of end the season and just, I wasn't burnt out at all like I felt last season. I felt actually pretty good. I could keep going, but I am tired, and so I think it's really important to have a break and take this downtime to rest. But I do think visualization and journaling are two things that are important to maintain and that I have kept up. And I have kept up like my daily routine of like stretching and core exercises, and I've been doing some workouts as well, but like not so many because just enjoying the time home with my family. But yeah. That's
good. So we've talked a little bit about competitions. You said it's been a heavy competition season for you. What do competitions look like for you? And again, when you look at other people and their preparation, and you're right, everybody's different, everybody has a different need.
Yeah.
But your structural approach to competition is something that works incredibly well for you. What does it look like? If someone was to walk past and see Holly Harris preparing for a competition, what would they see?
Yeah, I think they would probably see maybe a little bit of a shift in me compared to like everyday stuff. I would say I'm a little bit more reserved and just, you know, kind of in my own head. I like to stay in my own bubble, and I kind of bring that into training before I leave for competition, so that it's the same, just pack, what do you say, drop, set, go. So yeah, I'm a little bit more just in my own bubble, doing my own thing, sticking to my plan, my process. And I think this past season has been a little bit different because I've been trying to incorporate more balance into my routine, and I think that's gone really well this past season, and I'm going to carry that through the next season. So because I like, when I'm getting on the ice, I like to be in my bubble, that it's important that when I get off the ice, I stay in my bubble, but I manage to let certain people in and just switch off, so that when I want to switch back on again, it's firing. I have like a system that when I go to competition, everything is the same. I know exactly what to do. I drop, set, go, and I do it. It's like autopilot mode. And yeah, it's just very specific, a lot of schedules, planning, so I don't have to think. I just follow what I've written down and do it. So.
That's great. And again, I've seen a growth in you over the last few years, particularly over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And that ownership and that belief and that buy-in to, this is my process, this works for me.
Yeah.
It's seen not only a calmer version of you, a more in control version of you, but a much happier version of you. And that's really good. And that's from somebody who's watched this journey for such a long time now.
Yeah.
To see where you're at today is such a nice place. It's really good to see. What's the future look like? If we had a crystal
bright.
ball.
It looks, I think, continuing the work that we've been doing and what I was doing last season, but kind of incorporating more of that balance into my life and just getting used to that. And I think just more self-belief, to be honest, just going full force with that and just kind of not letting myself get in the way, but not letting myself kind of tell myself I'm not good enough, or, you know, just saying like, no, this is what I'm doing, and just kind of release any negativity and just go for it.
That's something I think other people would be really interested to hear, because you are a hard-working, you have high expectations, and a lot of these hard-working, high expectation behavioural traits are what made you good at what you do. But it does come at a cost, doesn't it? It is draining, it is hard on you psychologically and physiologically.
Yeah.
Your journey that you've been on, what have you learned about yourself? You talk about balance, but how have you found that balance?
I think I kind of forgot in the last 2 years how like I am a social person. I like to be social. I have a lot of friends, and I think when I compete, I kind of like shut that aspect off of me, and I just think, okay, I just need to focus. But it's not necessarily true, because it's who I am. So I can socialize and have dinner with friends, and it'd be totally fine, as long as, you know, I'm aware of, you know, what I need to get done, and, you know, I'm not distracted. So I figured out that balance, and I enjoyed the season so much more, and I made so many friends, and it makes me really excited for the season, because I trust myself and I trust my process. So there's no reason why I can't, you know, socialize at a competition and enjoy it, because, you know, we're there to have a good time as well. So yeah, it makes me excited, and I learned that balance is important, and it actually helps you do your job better. If I'm just if I'm just switched on all the time, I'm going to burn out, and I'm going to get tired, and what I do on the ice probably won't be as good as if I'm having a good amount of downtime and switched on time.
Nice. And as I say, somebody who's been on this journey with you, that's so good to hear. Normally I would say to somebody that I'm talking to, what would you tell a younger version of yourself? But you were 10 when we started this, so that's a little bit of a strange question. But is there anything you would tell the younger Holly Harris that you've now learned?
I think I would say trust the process, like trust the journey, and also, like, the processes you put in place. But yeah, I think trust the journey, because I went through a lot of ups and downs, and that at times it's hard to imagine how it's going to work out, but it does. And if you want something, you can make it work. So I think, yeah, trust the process.
Nice. We talk often, weekly.
Yeah.
But is there anything you would ask me?
Oh, that's a good question. Wow, I've been given the opportunity.
You got a free run. Go for it.
What's the biggest thing you've learned? You probably learned so many things.
Yeah.
What's like a piece of like advice or something that you've learned that you've always carried with you through your career as a gymnast or sports psychologist, or, you know, everything else that you did?
Yeah, look, that is a really good question, and I guess over the years of doing this and working with other people, I learn from you as much as you learn from me. And every athlete I work with, there's a part of that journey, because I innovate what I do in the moment. In what I mean by that is there's no cookie cutter strategies. We change and adapt for that person. I've learned that we can't gauge our value just from in the moment. And because sometimes things just don't work.
Yeah.
And if I think that because this one strategy hasn't worked the way we wanted it to, then I'm not good enough to do what I do, it's so untrue. Yeah. I see it in the athlete who maybe have a bad competition or have a bad training session, and they kind of go, oh, well, we've been there, we've talked about this. And you go, oh, that's not a true representation of who I am. Yeah. It's just a representation of what happened in that moment. Yeah. So for me, that's something I still carry with me on a day-to-day basis. There's times where the best laid plans don't go the way you want them to, for a variety of different reasons. Yeah. Sometimes there are things that we just didn't plan right. Yeah. Sometimes it's things where completely out of our control. From, like today, the weather. We were going to sit outside and it started raining, so we just adapt. So that behavioural flexibility. So in answer to your question, I think the key thing that I've learned, and I remind everybody that I work with, and I constantly reminding myself, is if it doesn't work in the moment, that's not a reflection of who you are. It just means we need to adapt, change, and go again.
That's actually really good for me, because we've touched on this a little bit, but yeah, I think I've been there before, definitely, and that's something that I think I've been learning this past season, is just one session doesn't define you. In a lead up to a competition, I might have a bad day and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not ready, or everything's bad, or I'm in a bad place, but everybody has bad days. Like that one day, one session doesn't define you. So Yeah, that's really good to hear.
And that's important that you say that too, because there'll be a lot of athletes who will listen and watch this, who maybe are having a bad time, whether that's a bad one session, a challenging week, or even a challenging season, to recognise that you can come through that. Whether it be a concussion, an injury, whether it be a learning period where you're learning about yourself, and you know, the important thing for you is learning balance. So there's a journey, isn't there? There's always a process to move through to get to an outcome. Any other questions you've got for me? I like turning the tables.
Yeah, it's fun. What was a lesson that stood out to you during like your gymnastics career?
Yeah, really good. You're good at this. Maybe we should swap sides here because you are good at this. Yeah, look, my gymnastics career, I was never really a talented athlete. And we, in society, tend to gauge people's potential on their talent. I was way more of a tenacious athlete. And I got into gymnastics because I have no natural sense of balance. I'm deaf in one ear and slightly in the other ear from an accident. So I was always that awkward kid who would fall over. So when my parents put me into gymnastics to teach me how to balance, it wasn't because I was good at gymnastics. It was a means to an end. So I think the key thing that I took away from that is tenacity and following a process is way more important to you than raw talent.
Yeah, definitely.
Like raw talent will get you so far, particularly when we talk about the world that you move in now as a high-performing athlete. There would have been a lot of athletes on your journey that you would have seen, or maybe more talented than you, but are no longer around.
Yeah, there's so many athletes I've seen that are just so talented, and they think because they're talented they don't have to work. But I've always said this, and my parents instilled in me, like, hard work beats talent, always.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great. As I say, we said a bit earlier, you've got very supportive parents, and they get it, they understand. And that in itself brings challenges. However, it far outweighs the alternative. So yeah, in my career, definitely that whole, it's not about your talent level.
No.
And again, I to this day talk to people who I trained with, who are way more talented than me, but I outperformed them, I outlasted some of them, but I would never have seen that in the moment. And I think that's a challenge, having somebody like me, or somebody who's not just a coach, who's focusing on your physical or your technical, but can look at you as a holistic person, can help you with, because that's something that you won't necessarily see, and you not necessarily get from your coach. It's you'll get there in the end. It's a process to get to. You know, you learn these skills, and we talk about layering all the time. It's not one skill. It's not a light switch. You got this skill, it's done. It's how do I add the next layer and the next layer and the next layer. And I think if you rely on just talent, you miss out on a lot of those layers. So that's something that you see in you and see in your journey? Yeah. That's good. One more, go on. I'm enjoying this.
Okay. To think.
You'll walk away and go, I should have asked him this.
Yeah, I know. I know, it's so much pressure to think of it right now. What's the hardest part of your job?
That's good, a really good question. And I get asked this a lot. The hardest thing is living inside other people's heads.
Yeah, that's what I imagine.
And I think what makes me good at what I do is the ability to be inside somebody's head and empathise with them and understand their journey, and not, we talk a little bit here about cookie cutters, it's not about a process necessarily, it's about understanding that person and picking the right process. But when you finished working, like we will sit and work for an hour or two, and then when I leave that session, it doesn't mean I stop thinking about it. And you know, you text me sometimes, and you'll message me, and you'll say, "What about this?" and "What about that?" So that's an ongoing. It's like being on a journey with you, 24/7. And you multiply that by the hundreds of athletes that I've got, and it is a 24/7 lifestyle. So I think the hard thing for me is is being able to switch out of that sometimes, particularly if I've got an athlete who's going through a really tough time.
Yeah, you worry about them.
Yeah, I do. I worry about them.
Yeah.
A lot of my athletes I work with, I'm very selective on who I work with. I can afford to be that now. I can afford to be like that now. When I first started 20 years ago doing this, I was a little less because I didn't really understand the impact that I had. But now I'm a lot more selective on who I work with. And I want to be able to not necessarily just be friends with them, but have a relationship that's beyond just their mental performance coach. And so that comes with its costs too, because you are invested in their journey, you're invested in their outcomes. It's not an off-the-shelf process that you give them and go, well, you've got that now, you've paid for that, my job done. I want to see you survive and thrive and do all the cool things in life and reach your potential. So there's an investment in that. So that probably is the hard thing. My kids are really good. They've learned to share me. And you know, often I was talking to one of my clients the other day, funny enough, and he reminded me, I went down to Canberra and worked with him. He's now competing in France. But we went down to Canberra and I took the whole family and they were playing. You ever seen a game called Exploding Kittens? No. So it's a card game, and this client of mine was playing with my youngest daughter, and my youngest daughter was thrashing him at this card game. And when we left, he gave her the card game. So this is going back probably again 7 or 8 years ago. Oh, wow. And but they still have this relationship where they talk about card games together, and so that they do that, and so they need to be part of my life as much as I need to be part of theirs. So you know, the hard part of that is that's a lot to be spread around. I
can't imagine. I feel like well, I've thought about your job a lot and being a sports psychologist, and I think how hard it would be for me to switch off after. So
but it's much, I think if you think about yourself as an athlete, there's many different paths you can choose to be an athlete. The path that you've chosen is a path of, I want to be able to control, enjoy and optimize what I do. There's other athletes I'm sure that you see that take a less demanding journey. And it's the same with what I do. There's people who do what I do who, you know, it is more prescriptive. Like just give you a prescription, off you go and do your thing. Whereas it's a lot more immersive, the path that I choose. But I wouldn't choose a different path. I would always, I think what makes me good at what I do is this, but what brings the stress and the challenges is the way I do it. But I wouldn't do it any other way. Would you do your journey different?
No.
No. It kind of makes you who you are, isn't it? It's not, your sport isn't who you are, it's what you do. However, it's how you do it. Who you are is how you do it. And I often think like what my life would have been like if I didn't skate, and say I would have just gone to school in Sydney, and how different my life would be, and I wouldn't trade it for sure. I wouldn't be the same person I am today, and I wouldn't have the same life lessons and values, and so I'm very grateful for it. And that's nice.
Love it.
It's nice. So, last couple of questions. Out of all the things that we've worked on over the 10 years, what's the one thing that sticks out? If someone was to say to you, what was the biggest thing that skill set that you learned in doing this, and you were telling somebody else, what would it be?
Oh, that's so hard. It's hard to pick one, because there's so many.
That's good, that makes me happy.
So many good ones. I really liked what you said. Well, I can't pick one. This one's at the top of my head right now, but if I think of another one, I'm going to say it. What you said about one bad session doesn't define you. Your sport also doesn't define you. I think a big one is like banked knowledge. Like banked knowledge of like all of your success, all of the work that we've done. This is a good one because it kind of ticks off everything. But coming back to your bank knowledge, like this kind of falls back to one bad session doesn't define you. If I do have a bad session, or I'm having a day where I'm not sure about my process. I'm not clear in my head. I think back on my banked knowledge and everything that we've worked on, and or my list of successes. My list of successes. To kind of build me up and remember what we've been working on, and kind of touch on my processes and blueprints. Yeah.
Nice. That was really well put, and I think that's something that most people forget. Once you've done something and you've moved on, that what you've achieved still has value.
Yeah.
And not only in skill acquisition and retention processing, but in your self-esteem, your values, your self-recognition as well. So that's a really good one. What's the one thing you find you coaching other people on?
Oh, that's good actually. Because I do find myself telling other people. I remember one time really clearly. I think I was maybe 12 or 11. This girl had a really bad 6-minute warm-up before her competition. She was crying, and I was just nearby, and I just came up. She was a friend. I came up to her and I was like, "It doesn't matter what you do in your warm-up. Like, think of all the training that you've done to prepare for this. Think of all the times that you've landed that jump. Like, just 6 minutes. It doesn't matter. It's only to warm up your body. Like." And she's crying, and she stopped crying, and her mom was just like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for helping her." And I think she went and had a good skate, so that's good at least. But yeah, but your 6-minute warm up doesn't matter. The one time you do a jump and you fall, that's 1 out of what, like 50 times you've done it. So yeah, that's something I tell people. And one other one I can think of is I had a friend. She was trying to get a score for a competition, and she was really focused on getting the score. And she was like, "Oh, I think we'll do one more competition." I said, "Why not?" I said, "What's the worst that can happen? Like, you've done another competition, you gain more experience. Just go and have fun and enjoy it." I said, "Don't focus on the score. That's just an outcome. It's out of your control. Like, the judges are going to give you the score, you know. That's not something you decide. You can just go and do your best and try and grow from the last competition." And she was like, "Okay." And she went and she got the score because she just did her job. She just did what she'd been training. So yeah, that's something that I always try and focus on myself, like not focusing on the outcome. The score, it doesn't matter. It's just a score. It doesn't define you, and it's not your choice what score you get. So yeah, I just focus on doing my job, and yeah.
That's awesome. And that's really awesome for me to hear, because we talk about these things obviously in a closed environment.
Yeah.
But the fact that you go out and you see such a value in those, you want to share those with other people, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
This has been great to have you back in the country for a while and see and catch up with you.
Yeah, it's really nice.
And to do this, especially in 10 years, I think it's been an outstanding journey so far.
Yeah, it really has.
It's been phenomenal for me to see you grow and be the person you are today, and have a small part to play in that. That's been
a big part. Like, thank you so much for being such a support, and I wouldn't be the athlete I am today without your help. So.
Oh, thank you. You make me cry now. But,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.